Welcome to the Sports Card Talk Show. Sports Card Talk Show with Kevin Anderson and Lauren Walker, the Skol Brothers.
Welcome to episode 91 of the Sports Card Talk Show. We're going to do a little Monday Mount Rushmore action on Wednesday. Trying to bring this thing to a close. This will be Wednesday's episode.
Oh, okay.
Throwing you off a little bit?
Yeah. I thought this was going to be Friday's episode, but...
No. Wednesdays. So, who do we got coming on tonight?
We have our good friend Greg at GK45x5, and he's coming on to help us with the Tennessee Titans / Houston Oilers.
Yeah. Had to send out that bat signal once again, huh?
Yep.
Yeah. And we knew he'd answer the call, so...
Yeah, and he definitely makes our Mount Rushmore shows better, I think. Well, I think it's a lot better than just me and you doing it.
Yeah. We had to do the last one, so we're looking forward to having him on this one.
Yeah.
Should we dial him up?
Ring-a-ling ding-dong.
All right, we got Greg on the line, GK45x5. How you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing fine, man. It's good to see you guys again.
Good to see you. Oh man,
you're gonna have I don't know. You're gonna have to show up on the show with your Batman suit on one of these days, dude.
Well, hey, we might be able to do that. I would have to do the old school Adam West Batman.
Okay.
That's Batman to me, you know.
Right. Too funny. Well, so we tasked you with Tennessee Titans and / Houston Oilers. So,
yeah, that's awesome. When you guys said, "Hey, man, would you be interested in helping us out with the Titans / Oilers?" I was excited because when I was a young guy, they were one of my favorite teams, and I've kind of followed them closely over the years. So, I was pretty excited to be able to kind of dive into them and learn what I didn't know. Right.
Yeah, we have quite the page over here, so we're curious to see what you did here.
Well, we might bump heads a little bit on this one. I'm not sure, but, I was kind of looking at it, and after talking about the Chiefs a couple weeks back, I'm really curious about the AFL, and of course the Oilers began in the AFL back in 1959. Bud Adams was the guy that brought them into the league, and believe it or not, they were the inaugural champions, and then they were also back-to-back champions. So in 60 and 61, they had the recent Heisman Trophy winner Billy Cannon from LSU. They were running roughshod over the league, and they started out with a bang. But if you think about them in modern times, either as the 80s, 90s Oilers, the 2000s, and the transition into the Titans, they're kind of there, but they don't have those championships. So they can be kind of a forgotten franchise, down there in the AFC South. Yeah. It seems like nobody really kind of makes it over the hump. They've got a lot of good teams, but not a perennial champion.
Right.
So, yeah, man, I got into there, and like I said, props to Bud Adams for, teaming together with the AFL. And it's kind of amazing that the team is still around after what they've been through. They started off in Houston as the Oilers, of course, and then in 1997, they relocated to Tennessee. They played 2 seasons as the Tennessee Oilers in, I believe, Nashville and
Tulane, was it? Or
no, Tulane's down in New Orleans.
Oh.
But they played in Tennessee Stadium.
Yeah,
I don't know, and I didn't write it in the notes, but anyway, they were there, and then in 1999 they rebranded themselves as the Titans, which was probably a great move, and in that year they made the Super Bowl, although they lost to the Rams 23-16, and then that iconic picture of Kevin Dyson, I believe, being 1 yard short.
Yeah.
That was amazing right there. But
yeah, that my kid wasn't even hard. I mean, he was just a little tiny, thing, but he loves football, and he's like, man, Dad, no one ever talks about that Super Bowl, how great it was. And I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's easy to forget about it. It was a great Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, and if you think about it a little bit, those two teams, the Rams and the Titans, up until that point, they had been a couple franchises that were mired in some mediocrity.
Mm-hmm.
There were some unusual suspects to be playing in the Super Bowl for sure. And at that time, it was still pretty, the NFC dominance that lasted, 14 years?
Oh, man.
From the early 80s into the 90s. That was just kind of ending. And, man, I mean, you didn't see a game like that. I mean, so many blowouts against the Broncos, and then the Bills' heartbreaking Super Bowl losses, so it was kind of refreshing. It kind of set the tone for the new millennium.
My whole life of watching football up until around that point was the Super Bowl was the NFC title game, really, almost.
Yeah.
It wasn't until the Broncos came and won a couple. I feel like they broke the streak, the Broncos did.
Yeah, they did in 97 against the Packers. So, yeah, and that was what was crazy, because teams that rebranded were making the Super Bowl. You had the Broncos, they switched to the new logo.
Yeah.
Boom, there they go back to back. Then you had the Titans, almost, and then the Patriots showed up, and their color scheme and uniform was relatively new at that time. So, I mean, is there something to be said for rebranding?
I love all those old brands though. I love the old the Orange Crush. I really was wishing that whenever the Houston Texans came back, that they were going to be the Houston Oilers.
Yeah, but man,
I really like the Texans though. I like their.
Yeah, luckily we've had enough time that they've kind of grown as their own franchises. But I think there was something proprietary. I didn't really get that deep into it, but
sure.
I think there was something that prevented anybody from coming back as the Houston Oilers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So that's what it was. A franchise that has 7 Hall of Fame players overall, that's notable. 9 divisional championships over time, so in each decade they'd make a strong run of 2 or 3 years to where they were just a hard team to beat, And so for my honorable mentions, I kind of put it together, like I already mentioned there, of course, Bud Adams. I think we got to pay respects to those original AFL owners. Got a little bit more than 4, but we'll be pretty quick about it because some of these players were kind of iconic players.
Sure.
Elvin Bethea, as a defensive lineman, Oilers' all-time leading sack guy.
Mm-hmm.
Ken Houston, he was a safety there in the early 70s. He played with the Oilers and the Redskins, but is in the Hall as a Oiler, and of course he's also on Madden. So as the year goes on, he's that upgrade to safety that we all need about mid-season.
Right.
Week 7 through 11 or so.
Right.
Mike Munchak, who had a great career as an Oiler and a Titan, and then moved on into the coaching ranks. Of course, there's Frank Wycheck. Bum Phillips was a guy that probably the king of the one-liners for the NFL, or one of the guys. You guys had like John Robinson and Bud Bum Phillips. You get those two guys, have a couple cold beers, and no telling what you're going to hear about football players.
But Bum Phillips is probably the best dressed man ever to walk the sidelines for the NFL too.
You'd have that 10-gallon hat and then like the leather coat with the sheepskin in there, going into Three Rivers Stadium against the Steelers back in the 70s. It was iconic. Now you say that, Bum Phillips may have been the best dressed, and I think you got to give Wade Phillips the worst dressed. When he came out as the head coach of the Broncos, I mean, it kind of ran me off for a few years, and there wasn't an iconic image that you just wanted to follow, which some coaches have that. So, Steve McNair, I really couldn't put together a list without mentioning Steve McNair. He's a great quarterback for the franchise, and he was there during that transition from Houston to Tennessee to as the Tennessee Oilers into the Tennessee Titans. Kind of gave him some leadership along those lines, and and this guy almost made the list, believe it or not, as far as the Rushmore goes. But Derrick Henry, I think what he's done to this point in his short career has been somewhat noteworthy. And watching what he was doing to NFL defenses, like the last 7 weeks of this season, he's going to be a force to be reckoned with for hopefully some years to come, because I really enjoy watching that guy run the football.
Yeah.
Yep.
So hopefully we see more of that guy over time. And I think I'm going to get into the Rushmore, the four faces, and you'll see kind of a theme here. Just like we mentioned, Derrick Henry, pounding running backs, and the first guy on the Mount Rushmore, I got to go with Eddie George. And Eddie George, he played from 1996 to 2003. He's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He made both the first and second team All-Pro teams once. One in 2000 and one in 1999. He won the NFL Rookie of the Year in 1996. In his last season at Ohio State, he won the Heisman Trophy, the Walter Camp, the Maxwell, the Doak Walker Awards, the Big Ten MVP and Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. He was a unanimous All-American. So he came into the league, with some hype, and he did everything he could to back it up. So he ended up in the Titans/Oilers Ring of Honor. They retired his number as well. He didn't win a title, but he did. When I think about the Tennessee Titans, he definitely comes to mind. Just the image of him breaking through the line, and he was one of those big, powerful backs with speed and elusiveness, and it's a rare combination. And I really enjoyed watching him play. And one of the great things about him, after he retired and moved on, he went ahead and got his master's degree from Northwestern in management. And he actually appeared in a Broadway musical in 2016. Oh, wow. So, yeah. So he got into acting. He went on beyond football. But one of the most impressive things about his career is he didn't miss a start from 1996 to 03 ended up with a 130-game consecutive game streak, and he rushed for 10,000 yards without missing a start. And he was only the second player in NFL history to do that, next to Jim Brown.
Wow. One thing I remember about Eddie George is they always talked about his body fat. Like, he had no body fat. He was chiseled.
Yeah, he was. And he was a big guy. Mm-hmm. And you really didn't see big guys with that kind of physique run the ball the way he did. Mm-hmm. I didn't realize he had 10,000 yards that quickly consecutively.
Yeah.
Because he was in a transition time to where 300-pounders started becoming the norm. Mm-hmm. And going up against a lot of big dudes, man, that had to take a heck of a pounding.
Mm-hmm.
But he did it.
Yeah.
So that brings me to my next guy, and this guy, he was both an Oiler and a Titan. So we had a Titan. Now we're going into the Oilers/Titans, and the next guy I got to go with is definitely Bruce Matthews. And this guy, 19-year football career from 1983 to 2001. And he only played with Houston or Tennessee, so he was with that one franchise. He played all offensive line positions, and I don't know of too many people to do that, but he had 99 games as a left guard, 87 games as a center, 67 games as a right guard, 22 at right tackle, and 17 games started as a left tackle. And he was also the special teams long snapper for punts, field goals as well. So that right there, I don't know of any other lineman that can say, hey, I played all 5 positions. I did it at a high level. I believe he made the Pro Bowl at 3 of those positions.
Wow.
He made the Pro Bowl 14 times in all. So in 19 years, 14 of those times he made the Pro Bowl. I think it was 3 different positions that he played. He was a 9-time NFL first-team All-Pro. He was elected to the NFL Hall of Fame in 2007. And, of course, they retired his number 74. After football, he moved on to become an assistant coach with both the Texans and the Titans. And, he's a Matthews, and he is part of that Matthews lineage. His sons, Kevin and Jake, both respectively played in the NFL. He's a member of the 1990s All-Decade team, also a member of the NFL 100th Anniversary team. And here's another thing that it seems to be like a recurring trend with this franchise is this guy played in 296 games. He started 293 of those games that he played in, and he had a record of 229 consecutive starts.
Wow.
I mean, that's unheard of. And he's a Madden guy too, and I know that during times last time I was playing Madden, I did have a Bruce Matthews at every position that I could, throughout the season. just to kind of say I could do it, and then the next guy that I'm going to, I couldn't make a list like this and not have him on there. It's just, where was he going to fit? And for me, he's up there as the third name on the Tennessee Titans, Mount Rushmore, the Tyler Rose, Earl Campbell. Now, he played with the Oilers from 1978 to 1984, kind of a short career. Then he moved on to the Saints, 84 and 85. But during that, 9 years, man, he made the Pro Bowl 5 times. He was a 3-team first-team All-Pro. He was the NFL MVP in 1979. He was a 3-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year and consecutively, so 78, 79, and 1980. He won the Burt Bell Award in 1979, the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year in 1978. He had 3 NFL rushing titles. He was the NFL touchdowns leader twice. His number was also retired, number 34. He's in the Titans and Oilers Ring of Honor. He was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame in 1990 and the NFL Hall of Fame in 1991. Now, it doesn't quite stop there. He also made the 1970s All-Decade team, the NFL's 100th Anniversary team. He won the Heisman Trophy in 1997, along with the Davey O'Brien Trophy, which was best player in the Southwest Conference at the time. He was a 2-time College All-American, first team, and the University of Texas also retired his number. So, an illustrious career. I know that as a kid, this was one of the guys that I wanted to be. And what's crazy is, in doing the research, they didn't let Earl Campbell play football until he was in high school. His mom didn't want him to play. And, I guess in junior high is really when he got started. And he modeled his career after Dick Butkus. That was the guy he played like. And if you've seen the highlights of the Monday night game, Oilers versus Rams, where he plows into like 3 dudes, knocks them over, and then they're ripping his shirt off of him, and he just, he could play the game like no other. I remember just so many times just watching the feats of strength that he could do, and he had speed. Once he broke through the line and knocked everybody down, he outrun whoever was left. So
he was
cool.
He was beast mode before beast mode.
Yeah.
I think I've always heard Jim Brown was a man amongst boys as well. So, I mean, the younger generation looks at Marshawn Lynch as just a monster, but there was monsters in the olden days too.
yeah, like he's the kind of like the in between monster. And I think there was a quote that I read from Bum Phillips. And I'm going to kind of paraphrase it. They asked him, hey, is Earl Campbell the best of all time? And he said, well, I don't know if he's the best of all time, but if I was going to take roll, it would be a pretty short roll call. Yeah. Saying, hey man, to him he was the best guy. Now, what I like most about Earl Campbell, and this really doesn't have much to do with what was on the field, but in 1979, his Topps rookie card was the only card available. And there were actually, I think, 4 of those cards. There was the base card, there was the AFC rushing leaders, the Oilers rushing leaders, and then the Rookie of the Year. So he's visible on 4 cards, like the base and then 3 inserts in that 1979 top set. He didn't appear again on a football card until 1985, his second season with the Saints. And no one could ever explain why he disappeared from football cards. So you had his rookie card, and then he was just a void for forever. And that was one of my best polls. Like when we did like the top 5, that's a card that's right there. For me anyways. And part of that was because it was only available that 1 year, and then I got back into the hobby, and now, he's all over the place. He's in black gold, he's in Prism, he's in Select. You can't swing a stick without hitting Earl Campbell. But back in the day, man, I mean, this was like the unicorn, really, right, of running back cards. So, that was Earl Campbell. So we've covered 3 of the guys. Now we got 1 guy left. And this is where we congratulate you, Lauren, for wearing the number 1, right? And I got to say, when I was looking at this, the face of the franchise, after just looking at the details, not only is Warren Moon on the Mount Rushmore, but I think, man, to me anyway, he's got to go down as the face of the franchise, not just for what he did as an Oiler quarterback, but just his body of work over time, is phenomenal. So, we're looking at a guy who had a 23-year career. He played 5 seasons in the CFL, 17 in the NFL. He got to the Oilers in 1984. He was elected to the NFL Hall of Fame in 2006. And he was at that time, he was the first black quarterback, the first undrafted quarterback, and the first player from the CFL to ever be elected into the Hall of Fame. So he knocked out, 3 birds with 1 stone, on his election to the Hall of Fame. He was a 5-time CFL Grey Cup winner. He made the NFL Pro Bowl 9 different times. He was the first team All-Pro in 1990, Offensive Player of the Year, and AFC Player of the Year in 1990. He was NFL touchdown and passing leader in 1990. He was second, and he won his second passing title in 1991. He won the NFL Man of the Year in 1989. His number was retired by both the Titans and Oilers. He's in the Ring of Honor. We talked about his 5 Grey Cups. He was the MVP of the Grey Cup two years, 1980 and 1982. He was the CFL's most outstanding player in 1983. He won the Nicklin Memorial Trophy in 83 as well. He's also the Edmonton Eskimos Wall of Honor, and going way back to his college days in the mid-70s, the Pac-8 Co-Player of the Year in 1978. So, just a tremendous body of work over time. And, when I think about the Oilers, it's hard not to see Warren Moon dropping back with that, statuesque pose, just the he could almost be the Jerry West, type logo type, right, and the number 1, So
it's really Warren Moon. If he could have went to the NFL straight out of college, it probably would have been Brett Favre and Tom Brady and Drew Brees. Those guys would have been chasing Warren Moon instead of Dan Marino. For all those records. I mean, what he accumulated between the 2 leagues is,
oh yeah, like it was like 50-some thousand passing yards. I mean, I read the stat line and I was like, man, there's not enough time to write all this down.
Yeah, right.
I mean, just as NFL accolades alone, he's still a top 6 quarterback. And this is even after, like the Breezes and the Mannings and the Bradys, what you just mentioned. Mm-hmm. And to think at the time he was doing it, like he came into pro football in the mid-70s and ended in the 2000s, and you think of some of the people that he mentored along the way, so, I mean,
Chris Carter. And Chris Carter was a pretty good receiver when Warren Moon showed up on the Vikings. And Chris Carter was open on some play, and he come back and he's screaming at Warren Moon, "I'm open, throw me," being a diva like wide receivers like to be like. Warren Moon told him, "If you ever come back here and talk to me like that again, I will never throw you the ball again."
Yeah.
And Chris Carter learned to be a professional on the field because of Warren Moon, kind of. So I paraphrase that, but I heard Chris Carter tell that story.
Yeah, and I had heard something along the same lines. I was thinking he had told him, like, "Hey, I'm going to sock you in the mouth. if you don't shut up, I'm gonna knock you out." Mm-hmm. I don't know which version is true. I do know this is what you just said is the truth, because Chris Carter did calm down and start playing between the lines, and he does. He gives the utmost credit to Warren Moon. That's another thing too. A lot of pros speak very highly of it, So, yep. I mean, when push came to shove, I wanted to put Earl Campbell up there, but
dude, you could have easily went with Earl Campbell. You could have easily went with Bruce Matthews. I didn't know who you were gonna put up there, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
For a franchise that's not really ever won anything, they've got 3 guys there that could easily be the face of a franchise.
Well, and I think what I kind of think is their face of the franchise is yet to come, really, because we're still talking about guys that were in the transitional period, and if they go on another deep playoff run and Derrick Henry continues to do what he does or has done the past couple of years, some of those stiff arms are just ridiculous. As a running back, he's taking grown men and treating them like, he looks like a defensive lineman running the ball with grace and speed, and he can toss people around like they're rag dolls. Yep. And I mean, I kind of have a gut feeling that might be the guy. You give him 5 years doing what he's done the past 2 years, that'd give him a 10-year career.
They need to get him going earlier in the season so he can put up some better numbers.
I think. Go ahead.
For 2 years, it kind of seems like he does. He turns into Superman about week 10, and like just absolutely destroys the league for the last 7 weeks of the season.
Yeah, I don't know if that's been by design or just kind of everything kind of meshing together. I think because they've had some coaching turmoil, now that Vrabel's there, I think they're going to settle down, and we should see him. Now that they kind of got, I think, excuse me, if they can keep Tannehill and keep doing what they did to finish the year last year, the sky's the limit for those guys.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
And we won't see that slow start anymore.
When you have a good quarterback and a good running back, good running, and they play off each other, you can't load up to stop one or the other. And that's, balance attack is definitely going to benefit the team,
Well, that's something to definitely look forward to for sure. I think we'll leave it with that, man. We got the awesome Mount Rushmore, a lot of honorable mentions, and something to look forward to. It'll be interesting to see what the next 5 years brings, but I think we'll bring this episode to a close if that's good with everybody. Episode 91, Monday Mount Rushmore, Tennessee Titans / Houston Oilers with Greg at GK45x5. We certainly appreciate you coming on and helping out once again.
Hey, as always, man. Thanks for the ring-a-ling ding-dong. And anytime I see that bat signal up in the sky, man, I'll be here.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Skol Brothers out.